Hey, in today's podcast, I got my man Greg from Musician Monster. He's going to be talking about branding. It's going to be amazing. You do not want to miss this episode. I spent the last 14 years playing over 1,000 shows, touring 22 different countries, and become a top 40 Billboard charting artist. I fired my record label to go out on my own as an independent artist to market and release my own music, selling thousands of albums and millions of streams. The question I always get is, how did I do it without a label and sell even more music? This podcast is here to show you the way. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share marketing strategies to grow my music business and a loyal fan base. So, hey, what's up, guys? I got my man Greg from Musician Monster on here. He's a drummer. He's a brand specialist, especially helping artists telling their story and building out their brand. He's helped me recently on a single campaign for my new song, No Plan B Remix, which killed it. I'll get you to just go to @Manifest to see some of the stuff he's been doing there. But we're going to be talking all things brand. I want to welcome you to the podcast right now, my man Greg. How are you?
Hey, Chris. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing well. It's colder than I'd like it to be for June in Toronto, but I can't be in Portugal like you.
Well, weather's different everywhere, man. I've actually never been to Canada, actually. So maybe next year we'll take a trip there. But actually, before last year, I had never even seen snow before, dude.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're from Florida, so they don't really get a whole lot of that there, do they?
No.
Oh man, we got to come to Toronto, come visit us, man. We get summer, we get fall, we definitely get winter. It gets pretty cold out here. I'm hoping to definitely dodge a lot of it on the next winter for sure. But tell us about your story, man. How you got into music and helping artists with their branding and just getting into the music industry before we dive into all this brand stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So as Chris was saying, I'm a drummer. So I started playing when I was like 12 years old, and I was in a lot of local bands playing live. And I think it was a period of 10 to 15 years where I was just doing my thing, playing live, and hoping it would kind of work out one day. And then I was doing construction on the side, right? So I was working full time as a construction worker. When I say construction worker, I don't mean like walking around with a clipboard. I mean like I was in attics in the middle of summer in Florida, installing air conditioning. So it was really hard work. And I was doing my music on the side, hoping that would work out. And then one day I was in this attic, right? I was sweating. It was like 130 degrees in that thing. And I was frustrated. I was like, man, what in the heck is going on here? Why hasn't this happened for me yet? And then I've shared this story before, but I don't really know what happened. But all of a sudden I realized that the reason why things weren't happening and I wasn't making money with my music was because I was hoping that somebody else would come along with the smarts and the know-how and would kind of figure it out for me. Yeah. Right. And so that was my plan. And that was kind of subconscious. You know what I mean? I didn't know that that's why I hadn't, because I simply didn't learn how to, I hadn't made the decision to figure it out and learn. So it was like a light bulb moment. That sounds so cheesy, but it really was. That was a subconscious decision that I had made that I became aware of. And then I was like, holy crap, So what I did is that night I went home and I sketched out like this 5-phase plan to start making money from my music, from the gigs I was already playing. And later that month, I went from making absolutely no money with my music from the live gigs to just under $700. And then the next month it was 1,000, and then it grew from there. But that ended up being the genesis for kind of what we're going to be talking about today, because not only did it help me get the kick start in my music business that I needed, but the first phase of that plan was branding. So branding for me ended up being everything that I needed to get where I needed to go. It was the genesis of everything.
So what were the few things that you did to make money, that jumped it from that? I'm curious.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, one of the things we did is I actually started, we needed to start making money right away, so I needed to start making money so that I could reinvest it back, like merchandise and stuff like that, and some of the marketing that we needed to do. So it sounds really stupid and simple, but a tip jar. Like we put out this, we put out this tip jar when we would perform live, and we'd never done that before. And like the first time we made like $40 just from the tip jar.
Boom.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you can't receive.
That's right, man. Yeah. And that seems like such a stupid, silly little thing, but that was the first thing we did.
Yeah.
The next thing we did was we didn't have a lot of money to go into the studio or anything like that, but we did have some demo recordings on my guitarist's computer. So what we did is we just created little demo recordings and started, I called it the CD donation strategy, where we started exchanging or accepting donations for those demo CDs at gigs. And people say people don't buy music anymore, but the purpose of the demo was really a value exchange. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People still want something, man. They want to walk away with something. And if you don't have anything, they can't give you an exchange for anything. Right. And people just sometimes just want to like just want something, like you touched them. Right. So give them the opportunity. Yeah,
exactly.
That's huge.
So those were the first two things that we started doing right away. And that alone, we started making money. And what that did was it got us excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really helped me believe that I can make a decision, take it upon myself to take action and see the results. And that was like I said, that was really the first, that was what we started to do to start making money. But we had to kind of get clear on who we were as artists so that we could go after strategically and clearly with a laser focus about which types of gigs to do, how to attract the right fans with, a message that would speak to people. And those are some of the things that we started to do to make money. But the branding and the vision and the messaging, kind of came first.
That's awesome. I love it, man. Yeah. And I know, just small little things can make a huge difference, especially if you're at a show. And I think it's Jim Rohn who said, it's so easy to do that it's easy not to do. And we just kind of brush it off. But this is the difference between, making music a full-time career or doing your day job. And it's willing to go the extra mile. I think that makes the big difference.
Absolutely.
So talk about what you see artists missing with their branding and what you see wrong with a lot of artists and how maybe they can fix that. What's common?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's common is I think that there's conventional wisdom that says branding music is all about, fitting into a genre or one style of music, or that it's all about business or marketing and you kind of need to put yourself in a box in order to, kind of make people get you. And there's a little bit of that's true, but it's more so figuring out as an artist how you want to impact people with your music, and then letting that kind of be the thing that guides all of your branding decisions. So a lot of times people will start, and you and I kind of had this conversation too, Chris, is that a lot of times people want to start with the designs and the logos and the graphics and all that stuff, but you have to take a step back first and think about impact. How do I want my music to impact people? And then how can I translate that through the design and the visuals and the graphics? Yeah. And a lot of times it starts with identifying stories. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I think the biggest mistake that people make is they think of their brand also too as something that's static, like a one and done thing. And really it's not. It's like, just as you're never done as an artist or as a musician, you're constantly evolving. So does your brand. So it's not about doing the same thing over and over again. It's about doing it strategically or doing it purposefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you got me to do with, my new song, No Plan B, this remix, is you asked me about the story of it and behind it and, influences and what we want it to, look like and whatnot. But yeah, I had to take a step back and think about what is it I want this to say, as opposed to just jumping in, oh, that looks cool, let's do something, like that, which sure, that's fine later on. You can have likes, but it's really important to have that, that like knowing what you want first or what you want it to say, as opposed to just throwing it out there, right? Like that has a tremendous impact, whether it's, with the branding of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's too, because, the difference between a brand that speaks to people, and fans is whether or not the artist believes in it too. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really like about your branding, is that you have a consistent message. You're overcoming struggle, a fighter. And that's something that you believe in. And because you believe in that, you've identified that, that's carried through in all your branding messaging. You know what I mean? So it's something that you could speak authoritatively about with passion. And that doesn't come when you just think about pretty cool graphics. You know what I mean? They have to have a purpose.
Yeah, and so maybe let's, because I'm kind of your case study, and we're going to be doing a workshop together talking about this more, guys. If you click the link below here in this episode, or go to musicianmonster.com, that's where they can go to register for this workshop, right?
Yeah, it's musicianmonster.com/workshop. So I'll go ahead and set that all up so they can go there and register for it. But
okay. Awesome. And we're going to be diving into that. But can you, before they go there, like, can you maybe chat about, your thoughts as a designer and kind of like the behind of what you were thinking when I shared with you my ideas about this No Plan B as you started to come up with the graphics and all that stuff? And maybe we can talk about the different assets that we created as well too.
Yeah, sure. We're definitely going to be going into this in detail in the workshop, but the first step, Chris, was to identify the story. You know what I mean? Identify the story in the music. And the coolest thing about, your song in particular is that the stories, which resonates with your bio is, wanting to be a professional skateboarder, but an injury ended that, and you decided to pursue your music. And for you, there was no plan B. You were going to make it in music or die trying. There was no option.
Yeah.
So what we did is I have what I call the 4 music brand archetypes. And what they are is they're kind of like a framework or a model that you can follow. Because when you're branding music, there's so many options. And the challenge with branding music is that music is sound, and sound is abstract. So what you have to do is you have to identify kind of visual representations of the ideas that are in your songs, and then create an image to visually represent that. And that's how you brand music, essentially. And that's what we did with your No Plan B campaign. So we followed my 4 music brand archetypes are personal brand, persona, thematic, and genre. And the brand archetype that we followed for you was theme, and the theme was skateboarding. So if you look at your album artwork, you have the concrete background. That was chosen because concrete is synonymous with skateboarding, right? You skateboard on concrete.
Yeah.
And then the Doug Weir remix, it looks like yellow caution tape. We chose that purposefully because in a lot of places, skateboarding is a crime. It's illegal. So you use caution tape to hold people back. So,
I didn't even know you did that. I didn't even know that was the thought and all that. This is awesome. Keep going.
Yeah, dude. So, once you have a theme, the trick is not to, once you have a theme, strategy, you know why you're doing it. It's really easy to find visual representations of the ideas in your songs. And when you look at it, when you take a step back and you look at it all at once, you're like, oh man, that looks cool. That looks good. But when you know why, it comes together, because you're not picking things haphazardly. You're picking them for a purpose.
Yeah. And same even with the color palette, right? Like what do you like? Obviously, you want to go with colors that represent your thing. Like we didn't go with neon pink or green for me on this. And what's your
I was really pushing for you on that though. Like I would love some neon pink.
And some people just like, I guess, sure. Some artists maybe like, I don't think I've rarely ever used orange in anything. I don't know necessarily why personally for me or whatnot. There's obviously some colors that resonate with a certain band, I guess, depending on genre or message, whatever. I guess everything comes into play as far as the color palette, right? Or like, can you speak into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a strategy behind picking the right colors, and sometimes you might get lucky and pick colors that look good and get lucky with that and they just fit. But I don't like to kind of hope about stuff anymore. As I kind of shared my story with you earlier, I like to do stuff on purpose.
Yeah.
So the whole idea with colors, there's actually a science behind picking the right colors, and it has to do with matching color to emotion and the emotion that's in your music. So certain colors evoke certain emotions, and sometimes certain colors can represent dual emotions, but the purpose is you want to pick a color strategically and purposefully based on the vibe you want to convey visually that is also conveyed auditorily through your music.
Yeah.
And so did that kind of explain?
Yeah, it does. And I don't know, just as we're talking about this, like I'm thinking, and I don't know if this is true or not, but you'd have to look at different genres. But when I think of the color, even brown, and I guess it depends how it's used, I almost wonder if that's more synonymous with like country or folk. And when I think of like harsh, like, I don't know, this does pink and the neon colors associate with dance more. I don't know if we
Right.
can say they do. When I think of those colors, they do a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can say you can't do that. But I do think that they do give off that feeling, don't they? Like that kind of lend their
They do.
hand to that.
They do. So if you think, like the color red is often associated, I think a lot of metal bands will pick red, or heavier or aggressive bands will pick red. That's because, there's two sides to red. Red could represent love or passion, but it could also represent anger and aggression.
Yeah.
So it's not so that you pick a color and you have to stick to one thing. It's knowing what you want to convey to the color.
Yeah.
And picking it based on the emotions that you want to convey, or that you know that you convey through your music. And it's all those little things that when you're aware of that, they come together to really being able to own your brand, which your brand is just the visual side of your music.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I freaking love this stuff. I hope you guys are loving this too. We're going to be doing a workshop together. I'm going to be on it as well. Go to musicianmonster.com/workshop. I will put a link on smartmusicbusiness.com too. But to register for this, go to musicianmonster.com/workshop to find out more about it. It's going to be freaking awesome. So you can dive more into this stuff, because it's so important with branding and getting your message out there and getting the right one, because you might be trying to target certain fans, but you don't have the right branding in place and messaging. And so let Greg and on this workshop just blow your minds more. Dude, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure, Chris. Happy to help, dude.
Absolutely. Boom. So if you're a struggling artist and you're just trying to figure out this music industry, you want to go full time with your music, you want to get noticed on social media, or learn how to launch an album, an EP, or just get your music more marketed out there, I want to encourage you to check out my coaching program called Fanbase University. Every single month, I jump on the phone 2 times with my students and I coach them and I teach them how to market their music, how to get noticed, how to handle booking agents, record labels, and just get their music out there. Also, you get access to exclusive training, you get interviews with music industry professionals. If you want to find out more and not do this on your own, not struggle, because I've wasted thousands of dollars on my career, and now I want to coach other artists. Check out my program, fanbaseuniversity.com, or click the link below to find out more info.